Welcome to Broken Unicorn Podcast, where our minds are broken and our models are built.
Well, most of the time. So this is our first podcast attempt. I've spent about the past half an hour trying to figure out how to use software, but I think I've got it, but probably not. We'll see what happens.
I mean, it's a good day for luck, shall we say. Yeah. I played my first 2 games of Warcry properly with my own warband and actually won.
So, I guess what is this podcast meant to be? It's a hobby podcast, yeah, which there's a million of, and what makes ours special?
We do, of course.
I apologise for that noise from my PC, which is not muted.
How dare you?
I know, I'm fully unprepared for this drama.
So rude.
I'd
say we're a hobby
podcast.
Hobby/entertainment.
I accept that we're going to diverge.
Oh, drastically!
A
lot.
Yeah. I think it's going to be like one of those podcasts where they never talk about the thing they're meant to be talking about.
It's very true.
Yeah, but anyway, lots of Gundam, lots of Warhammer is probably going to be on the table.
Yep.
Tabletop and otherwise.
Yep.
So I guess something we wanted to talk about in our first go was your first experience with Gunpla, and I think Jason is ready to go. We didn't introduce ourselves. Should we? Let's do that. Okay.
Let's do introductions.
Okay. So I'm Erin.
I'm Jason.
Sorry. I'm Erin, and I'm more commonly known as Scribbleimp through my art kind of career in inverted commas, and
I'm Jason. You can find me on Instagram as Kitbasher Chronicles. An amateur, journeyman painter.
Journeyman, I like that.
Journeyman painter and hobbyist.
I like that. That's nice. That's nice.
Try and strive to achieve some standard and improvement as I go. But yeah, I haven't posted for a while, but hopefully I'll start uploading.
You posted today though, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, I did. For the first time since August, I think.
I think it was August. I checked.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm big into painting and modelling. I have been since I was a kid, on and off. And yeah, it's a bit about me.
Yeah. So your first Gunpla experience, if you will.
Well, it's an interesting one because it kind of came out of the blue. A friend of mine many moons ago for my 21st birthday got me a Gunpla kit. He knew I'm a big geek and I liked anime, and it was a high grade Gundam Death Scythe Hell from Gundam Endless Waltz, and it's a 1/100 scale high grade. So this is an old kit. We're talking, I think 1998. The kit was manufactured.
That sounds about right. I've seen your kit, and you're saying it's from Endless Waltz, but it's not actually an Endless Waltz kit. It is the design from the later stages of the anime. So it'd be the Death Scythe Hell, which is the upgrade to Death Scythe, and Global Suit Gundam.
It's the one. Yeah, it's the one with the rounded shoulders and the shield.
Cloaky
Cloaks,
shield wing situation going on, but not the bat wings which you get in Endless Waltz.
Yeah, it's again, it's.
Or the version that you have, the Verka versions, which are called the W versions, based on, I think it's the Frozen Teardrop manga, which is a separate design, which is what that series is from.
You're the walking encyclopedia on Gundam.
I'm sorry, I know some things.
But yeah, that was my first kit, and as with all first kits, and my lack of patience, I did horrible things to build that kit.
Did you clip it out using nail clippers?
I have a confession to make. Not only did I use nail clippers, I twisted certain pieces off the sprue.
Oh, that's painful. It's even worse. It's still in this. It's been how almost like.
I moved.
How many years has it been now? Like, what, 17 years or something?
Yeah.
And it still is in here.
It's in here.
It was on a Christmas tree one year.
It was a Christmas tree topper a couple of years ago. But the kit itself, if you look at it closely, you can see the mistakes I made when I was building it.
Oh yeah.
And it's quite nice to look back at something like that and go, oh God, what was I thinking? There's nub marks, there's little pieces of sprue still attached to certain bits. I'd love to do a renovation of it, or if I could get my hands on a fresh version of the kit, do a scratch build and really do a nice job on it. Make sure the joints are all tight, because with kits of that age, I mean, everything goes floppy.
There's no internal frame.
Yeah, there's no internal frame. Everything's held together just by the joints and the arms and legs. It's still, for me, I think it's a really cool looking kit. It's not hugely detailed.
It's very much like, I always say that the general populace of Gunpla fans, or well, not Gunpla, Gundam fans in the UK, comes into two kind of camps. And this is very general rather than proper. You get two types. You get the edgelord ones that love Death Scythe.
Yep.
And then the other end is you have heavy arms fans, and what they're all about is their military buffs and stuff. They're the people who want to play things like bolt action, and they love heavy arms because it's covered in machine guns. And then everyone forgets about the Shenlong, Sandrock, Altron, and even to a certain extent, Wing and Wing Zero kind of get shot to the side.
Yeah, I mean, okay, there's... Yeah, the Endless Waltz is the Endless Waltz version of Wing Zero that has the feathers.
Yeah, the Angel Wing
feather thing. Because that's such an iconic thing that people think about, and they don't think about the original Wing Gundam.
No, but I will say that the real grade they released, and I've heard very good reviews, but I've never built, looks great and has a really nice transformation and lots of nice little gimmicks. And you know that you get them for real grades, but I will say that version they released was very nice.
It's particularly good.
Whereas the original real grade Wing version they got is the one that's the Kotoke version. Yeah, the Berka design version from Frozen Teardrop.
Okay, yeah.
And there's no Wing Zero standard Wing Zero version of real grade. There is the Angel Wing one, but unless I'm completely wrong, there's no Wing Zero or a Proto Zero version.
I think you're right, actually. Come to think of it. For me it was one of those kits. It's just like, it's kind of metal. That's the thing. And the guy that got me it also is a friend that's known me being into metal as well. So it's the kind of edgelord metalhead.
The irony is like, so the show, you know, of course this is a UK based mini hobby thing talking about Gundam Wing, and there's Gundam, and the first thing we talk about is Gundam Wing, because that's what kind of was the first big thing here way back when on Toonami. But the irony is the character of the whole group of the pilots of the mobile suit pilots in Gundam Wing, the pilot of Death Scythe, Geo Maxwell. He is by far the most jovial of those characters.
Which is ironic.
Because he plays Death Scythe, but then he refers to himself and the mobile suit as the Angel of Death. The intention is, well, no one's meant to be see a gun. If they ever see a gun, they shouldn't live to talk about it.
There's supposed to be no collateral or witnesses.
But he's really kind of, at the very start, is very focused on the idea. Though a lot of those kind of sentiments change as the show goes on, particularly when they get into space.
Yeah.
And though when he gets his upgraded version, Death Scythe Hell, it's very cool. I don't know the name, but I know Death Scythe Hell in the West had a different name, but off the top of my head, I don't know it. Should I look? I'm gonna look it up.
Look it up, yeah.
But it had a different name because it was too much. It's like the God Gundam and the Devil Gundam were called Burning and Dark Gundam because of there's the connotations of the West about religion,
especially in America. While you're doing that, I'll say that some of the little features about the kit that I really love and still love to this day, for something that was supposed to be of a high grade level, the hands are fairly well designed. They have some level of posability. They have a fixed thumb, but you can actually move the fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah. The three lateral fingers in the hand move as one piece, and the index finger moves separately.
So kind of like those real grade hands. Do you not get some real grade hands that work that way?
Yes, you do. It's in fact the real grade articulated hands, but not quite as nicely designed. And the one thing that, looking back at the kit now, the fingers are very spindly.
I can't seem to figure out the name of this. It doesn't matter if you are listening and or paying attention. Maybe you know the name, but maybe I'm entirely wrong. But from what I remember, it had a different name.
Yeah.
Because of the kind of connotations.
Yeah.
But I could be maybe entirely wrong, and I'm just misremembering it.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, we grew up at different ends of the same era, and I mean, I lived through like Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles here in the UK.
I do recall that being a thing.
Yeah, it was all because someone in the government said the word ninja was like a dirty word.
But it got changed then eventually.
It eventually got changed back, because it was
apparently Japan had no issues with it.
No.
or at least that seems to be the idea. But again,
yeah, it was
wrong.
supposed to be the connotation of violence that came with it. Things like other thing that still cracks me up to this day, diverging from our topic, is Michelangelo. The only time you ever see him with nunchucks is in the intro credits.
Really?
He never uses nunchucks in the entire series.
So I feel I recall watching it as a kid, but like I don't remember any detail other than pizza, and that's kind of it. That's the only thing I really remember is pizza and a yellow and thingies. April O'Neil's
Yellow jumpsuit.
Jumpsuit was no jacket jumpsuit. Yeah.
Just on the topic of pizza, when I was a kid, they had McCain Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles pizzas with weird toppings, and the one that stuck out to me, I'm pretty sure I remember it having apple on it.
What's that got to do with the Ninja Turtles?
Because it was a running thing that they'd have weird pizza toppings in the cartoon.
Okay.
But again, that was kind of part of the show. And
but why would you have that as a real thing? I know people love to have experimental things like burgers and pizzas nowadays, but back, you're talking over 2 decades ago now. That's weird.
It was, for me as a kid, I mean, I grew up in a household where I ate reasonably interesting, like varied foods.
Yeah, your dad likes a bit of interesting curious, especially at that time. Whereas it's much more common now.
Oh yeah.
If you're like in your 30s like us or older, you know that it's like there was a period where the idea of eating sushi was weird.
Whereas now it's something
your mum
do.
was really freaked out. It was like she wouldn't eat Japanese food when we had her over to eat it, and we had to kind of encourage her through things that are more
palatable.
Something she's more accustomed to, similar. But like I'm trying to get your mum to eat takoyaki. It's like, this is delicious. She was being she was gonna like try and cut it in half and stuff. It's like, no,
it's an octopus dumpling.
I saw my mum cut what do you call it?
Gyoza.
Gyoza, yeah. I saw my mum cut a gyoza in half, and my mum's not old enough to think that's a reasonable thing to do. She's from the era of portion control.
Yeah.
Yeah, where you go like, I'm gonna cut a burger in half, then eat it. It's just eat the fucking burger. Like, come on. Like, seriously, like, what's the deal?
Yeah. But back to the topic at hand. We're
talking
so
about your first season.
What was your first kit? Because
I have a weird kind of, I say not story, but kind of general vibe of this.
But before we get into that, just
okay,
to lead on into something after when you talk, I have a second introduction to Gunpla and a third.
I have 2 as well.
Yeah, because I had 3 different eras of Gunpla in my life, but let's hear about your first one.
So my genuine first one, and I've been asked before, and I usually lie because there's a more interesting story for the one I have and I still possess. But the first one, I was maybe about 14 or 15, and it's that point when you're kind of growing up and you're trying to avoid like the things that are nerdy and stuff. You start hiding even from your family a bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You're being singled out.
Yeah. So and I was already not very cool. I was the weird art kid. So that was already bad enough in a very small school as well. And so, yeah, I remember watching anime at night alone and stuff like that because it was like it's very different from the way it is now. Very different. And the only way to watch it was Cartoon Network.
Under a blanket, hiding your...
Not quite. Like,
hiding your shame from the world.
I remember watching Gundam Wing in bed late at night, like when I went to bed. And, you know, that's when I watched it because I had a TV in my room and I could get Sky upstairs.
Yeah.
I must have apparently. I don't even remember.
Probably would have been, yeah.
I must have. Anyway, so I remember there was it was A1 Comics in Glasgow, which is still there and it's the same location, and I don't know if they even still do sell them. I imagine they probably sell some now because they've got a model shop up the road. But I got, assuming it was another 100 scale, but I think it was again similar situation, which was a high grade or non-grade 100 scale of the Freedom Gundam. That's what I first got. And I'm so sorry to the community, but I used nail clippers to cut out. I'm not really done any miniature stuff. The first time I did miniature stuff was years younger, and it was at my cousin's in London. But yeah, I used nail clippers, and I think it did some twisting. I'm so sorry, but I built it. But then there was also still this weird shame. Like, I built that while I was alone in the house, and then I hid it because it was like there was a weird shame I didn't build myself, like a neuroticness.
Oh no!
And it's just like how ridiculous, and you know, especially now, whereas I very much wear my nerdiness and my joy of these things on my sleeve. But it was especially at that time when you're that kind of young, when you're desperately trying to even feel like you fit in your family a little bit sometimes.
I didn't quite have as much of the nerd shame, but I was an odd kid.
Yeah, I did have more. Like, I still wanted to watch cartoons and I wanted to watch anime, and it was still very much that connotation of you're watching cartoons, you're watching kids shows, and you're trying to feel like you're maturing, but then you're kind of challenging that at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was that. It was in a box for years, and eventually it went in the bin. I would never really necessarily want to do that again, but we do have in our backlog, we have the China Special Edition
Freedom Gundam,
which is technically a full mechanics.
It's a 1/100th full mechanics,
yes.
And it comes with the base, which is it's a replica of the base.
It's I love that it's actually a replica of the statue, so
yeah.
it has the base bits, and it's really nice. So I'm looking forward to what we'll do with that. I guess we'll just, in my head, maybe just paint it as it is and as the traditional colours, but unless something comes into our minds.
I think a straight build, nice set of decals would look really cool on it. We could do something fun with LED lights around the base.
That is true, some little LEDs around the edge so they shine up. That could be very nice.
I think there's opportunity for electronics with that kit, even running electronics into it for its eyes or chest.
Yeah. We need to really start
have a look at it.
We know nothing about the electronics side, really. I think that's something we need to learn, especially for some things in the backlog, particularly the Dendrobium. We in our backlog have high grade Dendrobium from the year 2000 from Stardust Memories, or the one that was it 0083. I never remember the actual full name of it. But yeah, we have one of those, and we want to really, really kit that out, put LEDs, really make a drama of that human. It's almost a meter long, including the can.
Yeah, it's 2 feet wide.
2 feet wide, and yeah, a meter.
It's a
long.
big kit.
It's a big kit, but I think we really need to make sure we have the LEDs kicking around for that.
Possibly a larger house.
I have no idea where that would go in our home yet. That's the thing. No idea. I eventually I managed to get it in the cupboards. Sort of way eventually. Because it was here for ages.
And we have a similar sized X-wing in the studio, but it's not quite as beefy.
No, it's not quite, and the weight of it is probably much higher. It's one of those Gundam kits that has screws and
it has a weighted base.
It has a spring-loaded system, so the
weapons.
So if you've never seen it has these big kind of sections on either side that have like silos, and they're meant to carry missile silos, and also it carries its weapons. So it has like its bazooka and all these kind of weapons that can be carried by the actual mobile suit who controls it, which is in the middle. So it's kind of, if you're maybe more accustomed to more recent stuff, so it's similar to the Neo Zeon from like Gundam Narrative and Gundam Unicorn. It's kind of like that.
Or the Meteor, but bigger.
Yeah, also, or like Meteor, which again is a bit older from Gundam Seed, but yeah, you got the Meteor unit. But yeah, it's not quite as big, but you can get a high grade of that as well, but it's not quite the same drama. So I think we need to really do that for that opportunity, and I think we're aware of that. Like, panel line it. I've got UV decals, so I can do some really nice photography. I want to put some on the shield generator thing. I want to see if I can put a fan and modify it, and it seems to be big enough that you should be able to do that. It means I think it'd be really cool to have smoke or something, and then it can be pulled in, so I can video getting pulled in. It could be really cool.
There's opportunity to potentially fit in a small scale smoke machine.
I think so. I think there's a lot of big empty space inside. Do you want to talk about your Warcry games today? So,
well, let's stick to the topic at hand. We can always do the Warcry game
do you
later.
Want to talk about your second Gunpla intro, if you will?
Okay, yeah. A good few years after my Death Scythe, I got my first non-grade 1/100 Astray. I got the red frame Astray. Again, nail clippers, because I'm a savage, but was a little bit more sensible with how I took it apart. I did file it down, but there were the odd... I mean, looking at it now, I still have the kit. There's the odd nub mark here and there, but it's not something that couldn't be fixed. It'd be a fun kit to do a refit of, and it's big enough and sturdy enough to be able to fix and improve on. But yeah, I've had it standing next to my my real grade a Stray, and it's really funny looking at the sheer the lack of detail on the big 100,
Yeah.
and the fact that again it has no inner frame.
Is the sword white?
Or is it actually the sword's chromed.
Okay, so it is chromed, because I know you sometimes get some kits and I've got some, it's like, what a waste of time.
The scabbard for the sword's all white, which is a bit but yeah, other than that, I mean, it's quite a nice kit. It's reasonably articulate. It held together better than the Death Scythe over time.
Yeah, Death Scythe, it's very wibbly wobbly.
It's very wibbly wobbly. But off the back of getting that one and enjoying building it so much, I got the blue frame with the giant sword.
Yes.
And it turns into the kind of big gun platform. And that, another one that I thoroughly enjoyed building. It had a little bit more in the way of gimmicks. It had the 2 daggers that fitted onto the thighs. Nice amount of detail. I actually pulled it out of storage and did a bit of panel lining on it not too long ago, and I really want to just get it out, finish off that panel lining, because I still think it holds up. It looks pretty decent. But those kits came with I think 3 sets of solid hands.
Well, that's quite common. You got like your open hands, you have your closed hands, and sometimes there's like a kind of pointing or
a gesture,
or like holding hands.
The red frame of Stray actually has a really nice design in one of the hands that has a kind of gesture to it, that when it's holding the sword in the scabbard, you can have it pushing the sword forward with its thumb out of the scabbard, which I always quite like.
Yeah, I think all the Strays that have those swords,
they have that hand, because my real grade has it as well.
Yeah.
But that was my second introduction to it. And I remember the biggest disappointment was the pictures on the box.
Okay.
Compared to what you actually got in the box.
Jeez, it's the painted version.
It's the painted version, it's panel lined, and there's decals on the pictures of the one in the box. So the logo on the shoulder...
Does it not come with it?
Doesn't come with that.
Oh,
that's right. It was really disappointing, because I remember going, oh, it's missing. And then just getting on with it and building it. But it always, to me, like, if that kit had come with just 1 or 2 little stickers... that would have made all the difference to it. But over time, those kits have actually held up. I mean, they're not particularly well detailed, but the ones I have been quite sturdy. The only problem I've had was a peg broke in one of the shoulder connections on the red frame. But that's a fairly easy fix. I've got the pieces, I've got the means to fix it. But yeah, those were my second introduction, and I got those when, 2005?
That sounds maybe about right.
That was
Gundam
Seed
as Stray as well.
Yeah, 2004. Actually, maybe 2005, 2006. I bought them.
Yeah, that must be about right. Yeah.
So those kits were my kind of sort of reintroduction to it, and then from then till getting back into it in the last
2 years,
2-3 years.
Yeah.
But that's a story for. My next third attempt to start Gunpla.
Okay.
What about your second?
My second wave was I don't really remember a lot of details of the story. I ordered it from HLJ, and it was, I'd been looking at Gunpla again and kind of going, and I came across a suit that everyone knows very well now, and for a time it wasn't very well known, but everyone knows it very well now, which is the High New Gundam, and I have the earlier version of the high master grade High New Gundam. It still sits on the shelf, and similar to you, I want to revamp it because I did it at a time. I came into Cal's watch lights and I did them, and I set it with hairspray. That's why I did it with. Yeah, which sounded like a great idea at the time, and it worked for the time, but it doesn't hold up.
It's funny the hobby mistakes that you make when you're younger, and looking back at it now, you think, who told me that was a good idea?
I should have known better at the time. Honestly, I was in my 20s. I should have known better.
Hey, look, I was in my 20s when I did those 2 Strays. Early 20s, granted, but still, it was.
So yeah, there's actually 2 different versions of the design of High New, because there's the one that is the Berkawa and the Katoki version, and there's the other version which has a different kind of posture. The legs aren't as big, and the kind of positioning of a lot of the elements are different. Also, that model isn't as detailed. But yeah, I still have it on the shelf. So I kind of count that as my first Gunpla because I kind of did it more properly.
Yeah.
And I still have it. And I, it's kind of closer to what I do now. rather than what it was when I was a kid or teenager, if you will.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I would say. That's what I kind of usually say when people ask me, so I can show them what I've got, and I don't really have another wave. Like I can argue my next wave was a Phoenix. So I had a Masquerade Phoenix, the original version, not the narrative version, which I painted up and tried to do a custom job, and it was a lot of my first time trying to do airbrushing. I didn't really know what I was doing. I've got some photos that I think are quite good, but it's mechanically the stuff I should have done to customize it hasn't held up as well.
Yeah, it still looks good.
I called it the Phoenix Renegade, and the idea was it was meant to be stolen and modified, and it's kind of set so the shields, one's meant to be permanently mounted in the arm and one in the back, so it's kind of got like an offset thing, so it means its weight's all to one side.
Yeah.
But the idea was just I wanted it to make it look good and also rotate how the standard positioning of the shield so it flips around so it kind of all points up the way.
Yeah.
And I thought that was quite cool, kind of that asymmetric vibe. And
Yeah.
I quite like that. I remember managed to get some quite good poses of it, so it looked like the shield on top, or the armor D thing, was hanging over, so it looked like it was like flipping over and like to shoot. Which
kind of funnels, yeah.
Yeah, so it was almost, well, they are funnels, but it was
yeah.
like kind of giving that vibe while they were still attached.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the vibe for that. And that's kind of, I guess, the closest to my third wave, but I didn't really feel, I feel like my third wave, but I think that kind of just tittered on and continued.
Yeah.
Like I've had breaks, but I've never really kind of left it completely.
Mm-hmm.
But I know like a lot of people come back, and I've seen it on like social media.
Yeah.
People say, "Oh, I'm coming back. What do you recommend?" And I was gonna like, I do think you should talk about the games you had today because you seem to really enjoy it, and it was the first time you really got into the meat of Warcry.
Very true, yeah.
But just I want to touch on something. I see a lot of people going on about like what's the first kit they should get. And
yeah.
And I have opinions, and obviously it's down to your taste. I remember there was a period, and it's still going on to a degree, where people were getting their very first kit, the Perfect Grade Unleashed, and I think that's a really not the right way to go around it, because you're setting yourself up arguably for disappointment with everything else, because there's nothing else like it.
It's a very different build experience.
It's actually very easy build experience, but also the large size of it. So it's like Perfect Grade is the first one. It's very unusual, and it just means everything you're going to do afterwards, you're going to probably be like, there's going to be a few things that please you, but you're going to go, well, this is just not the same as my first experience.
Yeah.
So you're never going to get the thrill that you got with this big meaty thing that has LEDs and all these layers, and if we're going to get another Perfect Grade Unleashed, it's going to be a long time anyway. Like people are going I hope this is going to get Perfect Grade Unleashed. It's like there's been one. It's probably going to be maybe a Zaku, because usually that's kind of the way they go. The first Perfect Grade was obviously an RX-78. The second one was the Zaku. So it's probably going to be the same situation.
You say that, but MGSD?
Yes, the MGSD. You called that, and I don't know how you could have called that, but you did. And I think I was like, you called that, well done. And you were like, I was like, surely it'll just be an RX-78. But no, you were right, and it looks really nice. Yeah. I think when I saw it beside a Master Grade, because I was like, okay, fair enough. And then I saw the scale, and I was like, okay, that's really fun. Yeah. I like this. In terms of that news, yeah, I don't know. Do we want to touch on the Zeta situation? Because you've not really heard about it.
I haven't, no.
No.
And I know you're a fan of the Zeta.
I'm a really, my early kind of UC stuff, the Zeta is my favourite. I love its kind of difference in its design while still holding that Gundam look very prominently. I love seeing kind of the more contemporary looks of it, like Gundam Evolve, and then you've got the variants. I really love the Grey Wolf. I would love to build one. Obviously it's P Bandai and it's rare. But I freaking love the Grey Wolf, which is yellow, which is silly, but considering you look at the names, particularly from Iron Blooded Orphans and up to the names of the stuff in which from Mercury, it's hard enough to pronounce people's names. It's not even they're Japanese and I'm a stupid white person not understanding to say it, which is usually the case. It's usually going, they're trying to make often these kind of European-ish, Middle Eastern-y kind of mixed sound names sometimes, and it's like, I don't know how to pronounce this even with the subtitle. Yeah. I'm still going, they love a Zula Halzig and like Jalabul, and I'm like, no, I don't understand this. But yeah, first experience Gunpla kits. I say go high grade. My recommendation is go for a high grade kit from Origin. If you're not sure.
Ooh. Actually, yes, the Origin kits are very, very nice. I've only built one of them.
TriStar High Mobility.
Yes, and that was an absolute joy of a kit to build.
They're so lovely.
It looks gorgeous. It's actually sitting on the shelf beside me now. But it's a really, really lovely detailed kit. It poses well. It is... I can't really fault it as in fact, a first build kit, that'd be a damn good one to start with.
I honestly, any of the Origin kits, there's tons of them. Our friends who have a hobby shop down the road, like maybe about a month back, got tons of them in.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there, I went and helped with them getting the shipment in.
in.
We're lucky that we have that. In the UK, it's really hard to get Gunpla
Yeah.
easily and quickly, and they're down the road and they're friends of ours, so that's really good. But yeah, they got tons of them. I'm sitting there going, look at this is gorgeous. All these variant Zakus. Was it the Slim Zaku, which I think has got another name, but I can't remember what it is. I know it's got a kind of funny name for the Slim style Zaku sniper thing. But yeah, the Zaku one, they have all these other variants. The Bigu, I think it's the Bugu, gorgeous blue kit. There's lots and lots of nice Xeon kits from that era, and I recommend that. But ultimately, I think it comes down to, I would say go for a high grade for your first try if you're not sure.
Definitely.
But then try and get a kit that you like the look of.
Yeah,
really, that's ultimately the idea.
At the end of the day, it's what do you like the look of? Maybe aim towards a more modern kit as well.
Yes.
The detail's better. The build is probably going to be a little bit more smooth and easy.
More undergating.
More undergating in modern kits. I mean, I recently picked up Gundam Battleog. Blazing Gundam.
Blazing Gundam from Battleog, yeah.
And, you know, it's just a little high grade kit. I saw it in the shop. I wanted something to build. And it was lovely. It was just, you know, pop it together. It didn't take a huge amount of time. Throw some panel lining on it, and it looks great.
Yeah, it really does.
It's a really nice kit. It's fairly articulated. It's sturdy as well. It holds a pose well.
Yeah, it's based on the Burning Gundam or God Gundam or whatever, and that is all about kind of clean articulation, and it's transferred over very well.
Mm-hmm.
When you built it, was there not elements of a regular high grade Burning Gundam in that, but different colours?
There is an absolute ton of stuff left on the sprue, which I've put into our bits box. I've actually used some parts of it to customise Schwab Greys that I'm working on. Mm-hmm. I think the feet that I took off it, the spare upper feet.
Do you also take like the ankle?
The ankle armor,
armor, yeah.
So there's a chunk of spare parts that come with that kit as well, which is nice because once you get into the hobby and you start thinking maybe I want to build a custom version of another kit, you've got, you know, if you're sensible about how you store it in a bits box, trim everything off the sprues, keep stuff paired together, and boom, there you go. There's a load of stuff that you can use for customization later down the line. But as a kind of starter kit, yeah, high grades, Origin kits, the Gundam Breaker kits are lovely. You know, nothing too difficult to put together. The more modern kits have more detail. As you say, undergating is a huge bonus.
That was amazing on Perfect Grid Unleashed.
Yeah.
I don't really recommend it as a first try, but it's not that it's not good. It's great.
Well,
I just think it's going to set you up for potentially disappointment down the line when you're looking at other things.
I mean,
which may only have a high grade.
I was supposed to help with that build, and I think the most I built.
Worked well.
I was very ill at the time, but the arm that I put together. I mean, it's one arm from a Gundam kit, but my God, it was just putting it together. It was really nice.
It's bigger than a high grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bigger than a master grade.
The arm, not quite. I mean, the arm itself.
Oh, no.
The arm itself is bigger than a high grade.
Yes, sorry, no, I meant like the kit size being bigger than...
The leg is as big as a master grade, if not bigger.
Yes.
Yeah, but again, it's that difference between a 1 to 100 scale to, you know, a
160.
160, which again, if it depends, if you had a master grade like Messer or a master grade Zasby, they'd be freaking huge.
I actually would really love that.
Well,
a Messer?
A master grade Messer a high grade Messer,
is
already almost as big as
a master grade.
A master grade, and yeah, so if you were to make it master grade or bigger, it would be huge. I don't know if we'll ever. We might get a P Bandai release. It seems like more likely.
They made the Neo Zeon.
Yeah, that's a high grade.
They also made the Meteor.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's quite. I think we might see some new maybe master grades coming out when they eventually do the next part of Gundam Hathaway.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah, that's probably likely to happen.
Interesting to see where that series goes, movies.
I mean, I like it. It looks gorgeous, but I think it leaves people very confused. But I think that's a discussion for another day.
I was going to say that would be a fantastic discussion for another podcast.
I think we watched that again, and then we had a discussion about that, because it's a weird one, because we watched it, we enjoyed it, But I imagine if you're fresh to it, you must go, what the hell? It's like watching Gundam Unicorn and you've never watched any UC, you just don't care.
Well, my UC experience is reasonably limited. I mean, I'm catching up slowly on the anime. I love the hobby, but the anime is something I'm catching up on. IBO, love it.
Yeah.
I'm watching original series. I've watched all of Unicorn. Unicorn, I'm a bit bitter about, because I watched the original run of it and it's very drawn out.
It's very dry.
It's very dry, and it has very little payoff at the end.
Yeah, if you're not invested in that world opposed to just wanting to fight robots, that's the thing. If I say at the same time, you know what was released, Bill Fighters. Bill Fighters was saying released because it was meant to be an idea for the new generation, and it's all about the fighting. It's all about fun robots.
True.
And it's so much fighting, and it's just very jovial and fun. I loved Bill Fighters and Bill Fighters Try. Divers I'm not as fun because it got into that virtual world trope and everything's taken a bit too seriously. So I wasn't 100% on it. It's enjoyable enough. But the first Bill Fighters and Try were great.
Yeah, it was Bill Fighters I watched, wasn't it?
I think you watched Bill Fighters. We
Yeah,
watched it with you.
Because that again, really fun. Didn't take itself too seriously. It was clearly aimed at a younger generation, but I thoroughly enjoyed it
it's great fun.
as an adult, because it's a little bit of fun escapism.
It's very like Metabotsy as well. Less the design. The design, I love the artistic style of Metabots. It's got very loose, and it's just there's something very nice about it.
Yeah.
But in terms of Unicorn was released episode. It was like as an OVA. I watched it. It was years it took to finish because they were like an hour long. I know they're I've never watched the serialized version, which is 0093 Unicorn.
I've not watched that one.
No, and I know that's a very different. It's reanimated. It's not just taking cuts from it. It's a different approach.
I will say the one thing I did appreciate was the quality of the animation.
They're all like movies.
Yeah, the original Unicorn was really well put together. The one thing about watching it the way I did, I dipped in and out of it. And there was an episode that I was watching and I was like, God, this is dry, this is boring. And there's a massive fight at the end of it. And I remembered the fight. And I felt so cheated that I just wasted an hour of my life watching such a dry episode for this fight to happen at the end of it. And I was like, oh, I have seen this before. Oh well.
I've done that in TV shows before, but when it's like an hour long or more, you're wasting so much.
And then all of a sudden something happens and you go, oh,
I think I remember that, and I'm just like, oh shit.
But yeah, there's a scene where there's an assault and it's all these aquatic Xeon type suits coming out and raiding, and I was like, oh wait. So I digress. We'll get on to discussing Unicorn on another episode as well.
Do you want to say anything about your Warcry games? As I said, just diverge a little bit.
Yeah, something that's not Gundam related. I've been it's a tabletop war gamer on and off since I was 10 or 11, and we've recently gotten a group of people together to get back into the tabletop gaming aspect because we're all painters. And today I used my almost fully painted warband. Also, I'll call them fully painted.
But they look. If you're just looking at, they look unless you look close. They look fully painted.
Yeah, there's some detail work.
It's better than what a lot of people end up on table. I'm going to shame the Grey Tide.
Yeah.
The Grey Tide. I'm going to shame the Grey Tide. It's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good. It's not nice to play against, especially when you have a fully painted armor. Watching someone fully painted already playing someone else. It's not nice. It's just like, oh, okay.
But yeah, my blue pointy boys, my unmade warband, were actually very fun to play with today. I'm still getting to grips with the rules, rolling and numbers side of things, but as I say, that's the second and third games I played today. After the initial one that I played against you, I got spanked on my first game, and the two that I played today I won. But yeah, Warcry is a really cool little system. It's effectively just a skirmish-based game.
It's Age of Sigmar skirmish.
Yeah. And you don't have a lot of units on the table, so your army doesn't take a lot of time to paint and build. You can play through a game in anything as short as 30 minutes, which we saw today. I mean, the games change every time you play them because you've got different scenery, you've got a different scenario, there's different wind conditions. And today we played with twist cards as well, which added an extra element to the game.
There was a few good twists, like, because I wasn't playing. You were playing with our friend Stuart, but I was there, and you were also playing the original rules because you were using your points cards and stuff. And recently, Warcry's had a second edition, which we do have, but because we haven't got all the cards and stuff yet, and you just wanted to get a game.
Yeah, we just wanted to a quick skirmish game.
So you're using the resources that you had, and so the situation of the win condition meant on your side, it's weird because like your character is very fast. If it wasn't for that, it probably would have been more even. So, but again, because you can play really quickly, you kind of don't mind. If it was a tournament situation, I think you would reassess things.
Yeah,
just because it's too easy to win. If I was playing with,
it depends, because as we were talking about after the game, Stuart and I said, if I'd been using a different faction, it would have drastically that particular first scenario, because it was a case of one of you guys is a messenger. Now, one of my characters just so happens to have 8-inch standard movement. So if I take my first round with this guy, I can do 2 movements. It's 16 inches, and it's not a big table that you play on. But the way I was trying to play it, within the first round, it was a case of, am I using him as a decoy? You know, you have to get him to one of the 2 selected edges of the table, and I bounced him to within about 2 inches of it within the first round of 3 combat rounds. I won it on the second round, but it was only down to the fact that this guy was really tough and can move really far. And you know, the other game, the only reason I won it was because I managed to get hold of a treasure token and hold on to it in an awkward place with a fairly tough unit.
Did you put the treasure? Were you the one who put the treasure token?
I was the one that put the treasure token there.
Okay, so obviously you had set up your scenario. You knew what you wanted to do.
Yeah, of course. As soon as I was told, okay, well, you put the treasure token, it had to be within 6 inches of the centre of the board. I put it on an elevated platform that I had easy access to one end of. But the thing is, Stuart's team had easy access to the other end of the platform. It just so happened that the unit that I used had that ridiculous amount of movement allowed. So yeah, that was the thing that got me through in that first game. It was, I don't think either of us had a particularly bad roll either.
No, you had a lot. I saw sixes flying around everywhere,
yeah,
which was
especially for the second game, the body count was really high.
Which is sometimes it's not the case in Warcry. Sometimes you're sitting there going, one model died.
Our first game, nobody died.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, no one got any critical wounds. It was, I think, the worst one is one of the characters ended up with 2 hit points at the end of it. It's a great game. Like, I really enjoyed it, and it's been a long time since I played a tabletop game that I've been able to just kind of chill out on a rainy afternoon with friends and family and just roll dice and have fun.
Yeah.
And it's one of those games I'd highly recommend it to folk that are our age demographic that maybe don't have the time or spare cash to sink into something.
That front, it's actually quite good for kids as well, because they maybe can't spend a lot and they can buy a Warcry box, like a starter box for one army, and that's got all the models they need for their army.
Yeah,
yours is a one box. My Warcry group is more custom.
Yeah.
It's because I'm basing mine off an existing full size Sigmar army, which is the Luminous Realm Lords and Slaves to Darkness.
Yeah.
But yeah, just before we kind of start rounding things down here, I last 2 games I played, it was like I lost both of them. I had good fun, but lost to both of them, and it was completely situational. Like the last one was, it was similar. It was a treasure token. You had to hold it, but you can move around. So one of mine had a treasure, or one of my opponents had a treasure, and if I had won it, I would have won easily, because I was playing around with Slaves of Darkness mounted, so I only had 5 models, which was using the new rules.
Yeah.
Or 4 or 5 models, and you could do that. And they were really tough and really fast, so I could have just outrun these Ogroids for the entire game, because I had huge movement speed. I didn't have to take anyone down. We weren't using twist cards either, and I could have just kept on running.
Yeah, you
None of them could have
circled the board.
I could have just kept going because I was on mounted models. So it would have been absolutely fine. But it's the situation was the opposite way around, so I couldn't really get all these guys down, so it didn't work.
And it's a great game from the regards of, regardless of what faction you're using, you could be completely scuppered by what the win condition is. Or, as you say, like catching a token, if you got to it quickly, that would have been it.
Yeah.
Game, set, and match. But yeah, great system. Would highly recommend it, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it so far.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll do an update on how it's going at some point later.
Well, thank you very much for listening. That's going to be the end of our first ever podcast, which I think I've enjoyed. Have you enjoyed it?
Ah, a nice time, yes.
So I think next time I would actually think we could probably do an entire episode on is we've watched the first episode of Rich, new series Witch from Mercury, and yeah, I think that's what we should talk about next time.
I think that'd be a really, really good thing to sum up in our next episode, yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows, we may even have a guest that watched it with us.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to share it with us. And thank you very much for listening to Broken Urine Podcast. I'm Erin.
I'm Jason. Please tune in and catch us next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye!